Hi everyone, my name is Lucas. Tell me guys, have you ever argued with your friends about anything serious? I'm not talking about anything silly, serious meaning defying fate itself. However, I was still a little lucky. One day, my class and I were taken on a field trip to the fire station. At first it seemed to us that this is a very cool idea, because not everyone gets the chance to see it with their own eyes, the processes of such dangerous work from the inside. And our teacher was eager to show us, because she believes that in our class, teenagers live without a goal. A career guidance lesson will help you decide in the future. Firefighters are people with big hearts, they are brave, and who knows, maybe some of you will decide to follow in their footsteps, she said. We chose a day, but when we got there, it was much more boring than we had imagined. But this did not apply to the girls in the class. These, at the sight of the firemen, trembled with delight. Well, like the muscular bodies, beautiful faces, the shape, all of that. Boring, I said to my friend Freddie, and he nodded in agreement. About halfway through the tour, Freddie and I decided to get out. He came up with an idea of getting inside the fire truck, to look at it from the inside, take a couple of photos. So we did. Having technically left the group, we ran to one of the cars. It was just standing open on the street. We climbed where we could, and then climbed into the water compartment, looked at everything. Suddenly there was a bell, like at school, only very loud. We hid below with fright, and covered ourselves with some material. It turned out that there was a call about a fire. The firemen jumped into the car, and we drove away with them. Damn, why didn't we jump off? I was scared, it was too sudden. What do we do now? Don't panic. As soon as the car opens, we'll run outside. They won't have time for us. No one will tell us off. Once we get outside, we'll run in the direction of school. Okay. After a couple of minutes, the car stopped. The rear compartment opened, and we ran out like a bullet. They called out to us, but we didn't even turn around, just ran away as fast as we could, so that we wouldn't be remembered. But after running just a few meters, we were suddenly grabbed by the scruff of our neck. I shouted, "Please let us go, mister. We won't do this again. We're just lost." I opened my eyes, and there was a very beautiful girl standing in front of us. She was so gorgeous, and also in a police uniform. I couldn't believe I was seeing her. I never would have thought there would be such beauties working in the department. She was young, and that was even more surprising. So, what do we have here? Come with me, let's have a chat. Miss, we didn't mean to, it just happened, you know? We're not going to jail, are we? I understand. So I just decided to talk to you, instead of immediately arresting you. Anyone else would have put you in jail for 12 years. This is gross violation of the law, you know. Freddie's face paled, and he swallowed, and she was like, "I'm kidding." After we had a little time to relax, she gave us her first and last name, Sergeant Gloria Jones. She asked where we were from and all of that, and then she took us back to the teacher. She had already been searched. We chatted a little more on the way, and learned that she was assigned to the fires in this area, which means that we could always find her there during incidents. After we got a telling off from the teacher, Freddie and I would go home and talk about Sergeant Gloria. It's unreal. I agree. Is it too weak to ask her out? These girls don't just go on a date. You need to at least know each other better. But it's not like she's messing around with school kids. What if we pretend to be firefighters? Are you serious? And where do we get their uniform? And it's not a fact that there will be a fire in her area. Well, we don't have to wait. You can trust me about the uniform. Okay, I'll listen to your plan, but what does the winner get? Whoever invites her and she says yes to will get my new AirPods and smartwatch. What did we do next? We waited for a long weekend at uniform to implement Freddie's plan with a clear conscience. He's got a fireman's uniform from the cosplay store where his brother works. We promised not to tear off the tags, to get it back in one piece and not to pay a single dollar. After that, we met near the fire station and listened to the calls. But during that day, no fires occurred in that area. So we decided to act according to our plan. We stole fire extinguishers from the fire station. They weren't easy to acquire. Then we drove to Gloria's lot. By this point, it was almost evening, so we chose one of the abandoned shops. There were no goods there. They had been empty for several months. So we decided it was safe. We made a small fire, called 911, asked for Gloria, told about the fire on behalf of the eyewitnesses, and waited for her arrival. When we finally saw the police in the distance, we lit a fire next to the building and stood ready to put it out. But the situation got out of control. The flames suddenly engulfed the wall of the store, and we didn't know there was dry grass in there. We started to panic because we did not think this would happen. Put out the carcasses, faster. It's not working. I don't know how to open a fire extinguisher. Have you read the instructions? Have you read it? Shit, we're dead. We're going to be arrested for arson. My mother will kill me. Just ink it and we'll talk. Damn. I can't do it. Maybe it's expired. Are they ever expired? Give me that. The sergeant grabbed my fire extinguisher, put it out in a couple of seconds. We were lucky that the fire did not have time to spread to the building, but the wall was slightly blackened. Gloria lowered the fire extinguisher, then sighed and looked at us. What part are you from? From the 3rd. Why didn't the call come through the usual line? Because the fire was too small. I haven't seen you before. Are you new? Yeah, today is the first day, you know. I see. Let me guess. Your name is Lucas and your name is Freddy. We opened our mouths in surprise. We were so ashamed. But how did you know? I'm a cop, which means I have a good memory for faces. The tag on the suit came with the name of the store. You called the station and called me, and yet you started an arson attack that could have ended badly. We both put our heads down. We knew we were finished. Gloria called our parents. They had to pay the damages, and we were given hours of community service. When Gloria came up to us again and asked what the whole circus was for, Freddy opened his stinking mouth first. He's in love with you, so we were looking for a reason. What, Freddy? I thought so. What does it show on us? I'm a cop. Even though I'm young, you're high school kids with a limited sense of responsibility, and I'm engaged. Gloria showed us her hand, which had a ring on it. We put our heads down, apologised to her, and promised never to do it again. At home, we had some delicious punishments from our ancestors. But do you know what I really learned? How to use a fire extinguisher correctly. That's it. Since that time, Freddy and I have worked all the hours, cleaned up the store, cleaned up the lawn, but we have definitely decided that we will no longer be firefighters. The best thing is to go to police school. So it will be safer for us and for the environment. What do you guys say? Have you already decided what you will do in the future? Tell me guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below. Do not forget to put your likes, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.
Hello, my name is Alan. Have you ever dreamed of learning foreign languages quickly? For example, I always wanted this because it seemed to me that languages are the way to survival, a better life, and besides, extra knowledge is not superfluous. Now, I will tell you how I managed to learn a foreign language in just one night. As I have already told you, I have always had problems with learning, but not only languages, but everything new. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe my memory is not so good from birth, or as they say now, it is not developed enough. Every time I was given a task at school to learn a rhyme, it meant that I would fail, because I knew that I would spend a lot of time with my phenomenal memory. And then the school program started learning languages, and that's when I realized that I was finished. We had French, Japanese, and Korean. I thought, are you kidding me? Yes, I barely remember my schedule, and you want me to remember the hieroglyphs? I was indignant, for which, in fact, I received deuces. There was nowhere to go, so with tears in my eyes and under the strict influence of my mother, I sat and crammed. It was terrible. I still get goosebumps when I think about it. I left school with a heartbreak and made a promise to myself never to study languages again. I had enough of my native language. That was until I discovered love. Oh yes, my first love was from Japan. Her name was Yuki. We met by accidents. I went to Japan with my brother last year for his work, but he took me with him just to look at smart people. We spent 10 days there, and during all this time, I mainly focused on their technologies. I photographed everything, looked, and felt. Since I didn't really know their language, only what I had learned from school, I didn't communicate or talk to anyone. My brother was at work all day, and I was walking alone, and that was fine with me. About the 8th day of our stay, I finally decided not to look for tech stores, but just decided to enjoy a light walk, look at people, take beautiful photos. As I passed an ice cream stand, I decided to treat myself to dessert and got in line. In front of me was a Japanese girl. She was so small, at the level of my shoulders. I stood like a fool, and for some reason I stared in her direction. I was so interested in finding out how old she was that I must have looked like a sleepwalker from the outside when I stared intently at her profile. She first endured, but then she screamed something loud and ringing and such. Ah! And hopped by foot between my legs. I broke down immediately, covered myself with my hands, doubled over, and fell to the ground dead. I think even tears rolled from my eyes. Then my brother ran up to me and asked me what was the matter. I couldn't say anything, so the girl explained something emotionally. It turns out that she thought I was a maniac tourist with dirty thoughts and intentions. My brother began to apologize for me, and then he explained the situation. I explained myself again. Sumimasen, I said, and bowed 3 times. My brother called me an idiot, and we left. You know, while she was standing there yelling at me, I had time to see her whole face. It was very cute, even when she was angry. This girl seemed charming to me. I stayed up all night wishing I'd met her. The next day, taking a chance, I went back to the ice cream stand. It was a miracle, but she was standing there again. I went up to her to remember Japanese from the school, Konnichiwa watashi wa Alan desu. I introduced myself and said hello. Then I tried to apologize for yesterday and probably said something wrong because she laughed out loud. I felt awkward and handed her flowers. This gesture was instead of words. She accepted the bouquet and said, "Yuki." Oh, how I wanted to chat with her, get to know her, invite her anywhere, but I couldn't say a word. And this was my last day in Japan. I called my brother and he translated our conversation on the phone, although it was not long, but we exchanged phone numbers, found each other in social networks, and I promised to write to her. My brother said that she liked me, and I don't know how he knew that, but he knew a lot about Japanese, so I wanted to believe that he was right. When I got home, I immediately signed up for a Japanese course, and then I was confronted with a wall of bad memories. How I learned languages. Each character was harder to remember than the other, but I worked hard, never missing a day. It was both hard and interesting. Yuki and I corresponded on the internet only with emotions. It was terrible, but I tried to make her laugh. This girl has sunk into the soul, as they say. My brother also helped me learn the language, but it was not always possible because of work. A month later, I realized that there was not much progress. Oh, how I freaked out then. It was like going back to school. There was a teacher in one ring, and I was in the other, and I had only knockouts on my account. At some point, I even thought to give up the idea of communicating with Yuki, but it is too firmly sunk into my soul. My brother told me not to give up, so I pulled myself together and started doing twice as much. And when I thought I was almost ready, I called Yuki and said the first few sentences, but she didn't understand much, and neither did I. Then I was more angry with myself than I had ever been in my life. I went outside, psychologically kicked a soccer ball in the yard. It bounced off the wall, hit me on the head. I lost my balance and fell head first on a rock. Then, to be honest, I don't really remember anything. I was told by my family that they saw me lying on the ground. My brother called an ambulance, and I was hospitalized. It turned out nothing serious. I got a concussion and something else that I found out later. When I was drunk from the hospital, I came home, saw a pile of books on Japanese on the table, remembered that I had already missed several classes, and sat down to remember the material I had passed. Reread the phrase book, dictionary, repeated grammar, and wrote some words. When I looked back, it was almost morning outside. I went to bed and was woken up a few hours later by an incoming call. I couldn't believe it was Yuki calling. Turns out that she called when I was in the hospital and my brother told her about how ridiculously injured I was. But it was nice to know that she was worried. When I picked up the phone, she was asking a lot of questions about my health, and I started answering her. It was only after a few minutes of conversation that she paused. And then, "Did you learn Japanese in the hospital?" And I realized that I was fluent in it. In general, I did not understand how my brain worked in the opposite direction, but I liked it. Since that night, I can communicate fluently in a foreign language, but I continue to improve it, and I also signed up for a couple of other languages, just to expand my horizons.